In this demo, we will have a look at Nginx and using Nginx as a proxy or a reversed proxy in front of our server applications. So let's first off start by looking at the end goal. So this is kind of what we want to achieve on our computer or on our SES Cloud computer. The red one in this case is illustrating the SES Cloud computer. And what we need to notice about those computers is that those are open to the world, so they are publicly accessible over the internet. And because of that, we have tried to keep their footprint as minimal as possible when it comes to open ports. So by default, the ports that are accessible is the port 22, port 443, and port 80. So port 443 and 80, because we want to use this as a web server, so we need to be able to access those ports, and port 22, so that we are able to access the computer using SSH. However, if we were to create our own applications inside of this server and start applications on different ports, the applications will start, however, they will not be accessible from the outside world. So if I were to spin up a node application on port 5050, that application will start. However, if we try to enter our address :5050, we will not get an answer because the firewall is blocking that port. This is where Nginx comes in, and we can use Nginx as a reversed proxy. So what we will do is to install Nginx. We will configure it so that it listens for port 80 and port 443 in the long run. And as soon as something is coming into this port, Nginx will look at the traffic and decide what to do with it. So we can route this traffic to, for instance, our node application running on port 5050 or another running on 5051, depending on what URL is being used. We could, of course, also do this by having subdomains to our cloud computers. However, that's a more advanced topic that is required that we use DNS and have control over the DNS, and we don't in this case. So we will have to do with routing the traffic using just the URL part or the path part of the URL. So in this case, the browser is heading for lnu.se or the SES Cloud for lnu.se, for instance. Nginx will look at the traffic, see that this is going to the root of the application, and it will route it to port 5050 and the application running on port 5050. If you write, for instance, /GitLab, it will notice that this is a different URL and it will route it to a different application, for instance, some application running on port 5051. And we can also, of course, install Docker on that server, have the application running in a Docker environment with an exposed port of, for instance, 5052, and then route some traffic to that one. Internally, inside of Docker, it will utilize, for instance, port 80, but that is just inside a Docker container. So this is kind of what we want to achieve. Another advantage of using a reverse proxy like Nginx is that we can add the certificates for HTTPS in the Nginx, and that will handle it for every application. So if we are installing more applications on our server, we can just route it internally using HTTP. There is no need to have HTTPS internally, since, I mean, if you control the server, you will be able to listen in on the traffic anyway. Using HTTPS internally on the server is just adding performance issues, because then we need a lot of decrypting and encrypting messages all the time. So we can have it like this: HTTPS over the public internet. Nginx is responsible for the certificates, and then it just proxies it forward to over HTTP internally. So we will set up this. We will not look in at HTTPS in this step. We will take that in the next step, however. So let's start off by installing Nginx, and of course you can go to nginx.com and have a look at the documentation for how to do this, but it's really simple. So we will start off by SSHing into our server like that, and now, as usual, when we try to install something new, we should always do an sudo apt get update just to get the latest references to the latest packages. Like that. Now, let's install Nginx, and it's a quite simple project since we're using apt-get to do this. So sudo apt-get install Nginx like that. And it shouldn't take that long. Just let it finish. The neat thing with Nginx is when it's installed, it's also automatically started as a process. So right now the Nginx is actually running on our server, and we can have a look at the version for Nginx by doing Nginx -v. And we are currently at version 1.18. We could also have a look at the status of Nginx by doing systemctl status Nginx. I don't think we need service. I think it's like that, yeah. So it's active, it's running, basically. So we quit that one. First of all, we could have a look at our server and see what it serves. So 190, what was it? 194, 47, 177, 216, I think it was. So it says, welcome to Nginx. So this is actually alive and kicking and serving pages on this IP address. We can also see that it's not secure. We're not serving this over HTTPS at the moment. Of course, we can also try to we can actually do an NS lookup just to learn that command. So if we want to know what DNS name is corresponding to this IP address, we can do an NS lookup by providing our IP address like that, and we can see that this name is cscloud 7.216. So we can replace that one by that DNS name, and we see that we will basically come to the same site. So everything looks like it's up and running, and now we need to do some configuration of the Nginx. So Nginx config files are located at the folder Nginx under etc, and the config file, there are basically three types of config files that are working together. So the first one is, and we can have a look at that one, it's called nginx.conf. In this one, basic things about HTTP and which SSL protocols we are utilizing and things like this is set up. We will not need to, of course we could go in and alter things in this file if we like. We could even add our routing in this file. We see some examples down here under mail, for instance, how you can route things. However, we will leave this file as is. If we look at the virtual host configs, that are the ones that we will have a look at, they are located in two different places. So basically what Nginx is doing, it's looking in the confd folder for any .conf file. So if we place a .conf file in this folder, Nginx will include it and execute it. If we include anything under the slash sites enabled folder, Nginx will look at those as well. If we were to have subdomains, I would recommend adding a configuration for each subdomain in the sites enabled folder, or not in the sites enabled folder. Actually, how this works is I can show that. If we do an ls, we can see that we have two folders here. We have the sites available and sites enabled. If we look in sites enabled, we will see that we have something called default. So this one is actually being used, the default. If we looked at sites available, we will see the same thing. Take note of the color though. So what this default file is just a symbolic link to this folder, the sites available. So whenever we want to edit or add configurations, we can add them to the sites available folder, and then we could, in the sites enabled folder, create a symbolic link to point at files in the sites available folder. By doing that, we can have a lot of sites available that are not activated yet. And as soon as we want to activate it, we just make a symbolic link into the sites enabled. That means that we can also just remove files from sites enabled because they are only symbolic links. So we can actually do that. So if I go into sites enabled, and we can have a look at the default, like that, we can see that in this one we have a lot of information about how to write server blocks for our configuration. In this case, it's listening on port 80. It does some things with pointing at a root folder for storing our files. It has a server name and a location. And this location block is saying basically that serve anything from the root directory, serve it from this folder, the var www.html. For the server named, in this case, the underscore is just, you can add whatever. In that case, it's just an invalid domain name. So this is not active right now. However, if we were to activate it using our domain name, cscloud7.lnu.se, then this will become active. In this case, I mean, you can go in and alter this default if you like. That is totally fine. We can do all the configuration in this one. However, we will not do that. And I will just, to show, remove this default site. Like that. So now we have nothing in the sites enabled. If we go back and look in sites available, instead we have the default file there. So if and I guess that I've actually not tried this. So sudo to reload Nginx, you can do that in a couple of ways. The simplest way is just to do a sudo service Nginx reload. Reload will not restart Nginx. It will only reload the configuration. So that is totally fine for now, and it's quick, and it will not interrupt the traffic to the Nginx. So whoops, if we reload this one, where are we? When I removed the default site, it says now that the site cannot be reached anymore, because since we removed this default server block. So right now we don't have a configuration anymore. If we were to go to sites enabled and create a symbolic link back to this site available folder, you do that by the command ln -s for a symbolic link. We need to point to the absolute path of that file, Nginx sites available, and it was called default. And where do we want to add this to? We want to add it to etc Nginx sites enabled, and I don't need to write the file name. If we look in this case, we have the default file back, and now we need to do a sudo reload Nginx and refresh this page, and we are back. yeah, so that's the first step. So I will actually once again remove this one. Blah, 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 default. And I will just reload so that we know that we are in the correct stage, and we are. And I would add my configuration to the conf directory instead. So we will go into the conf directory. It's empty, and now I will create my configuration from scratch. So I will do that by creating a file, and we can do that by just editing a file name in whatever file we would like. I would like to name it cloud 7-216.lnu.se.conf. Remember, in the conf.d directory, we need to add the extension conf for Nginx to look at this file. So I basically name it the name of the site. So if I have multiple sites in this configuration, it's easy to control them all. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, I forgot nano to edit it and create it. Okay, I will start off by actually copy pasting some commands because it will take me a while to write them down. So let's just have a look at this one. So, whoa, oh, wasn't that good? Whoop. It's not sensitive of the tab and the spaces, so don't. It's not like YAML where you need to be observant of the tabs. But so what Nginx is working with is server blocks. In this case, I will add a server block for my, and I tested this on another server, so that's why. I am adding a server block for the server named cscloud7-216.lnu.se. So this server block will be active when you go to this address, basically, and not if you have multiple DNS names. You can just add them as server blocks. What is this server doing? Well, it's listening on port 80 for normal web HTTP traffic, and it's also listening on port 80 on IPv6, but we don't need to care about that. We just add it. And it's trying to find index files in which folder on our Ubuntu machine on the var/vvv folder. We will have a look at that soon. And maybe we could actually do it like this. We add it because this was the default, and I will remove this one. Don't care about this location just yet. Just have a look at this one. So we are basically telling when we are going to the root, try to find files in this root folder. If we are not finding the files, try to add a backslash if it's a folder, and if you can't find it, then just return a 404 that this file wasn't found. So let's try it out. I will save that one. I will do a reload of the service, and we could do that one. It says forbidden, and that is basically because I am trying to, well, let's have a look at this folder. So I will go into var vvv. This folder is created by Nginx, and you can see that it has an HTML folder like that, and we have some kind of index.nginx.debian.html, and that's just an indication that this file is actually not the one that is being served on a Ubuntu system, because that file were located somewhere else. However, in this case, when we have taken control, we can add the files to this var vvv folder, and I will rename this index file to index.html, and we will need to do a sudo. So I renamed that one. We can try to reload this page, and now we can see that we are actually accessing this index file. And hello, instead of welcome Nginx, we can of course do a simple hello world. That one, save it. No need to reload Nginx when we are just adding different content to the HTML files, and now it says hello world. So this is actually the this is actually the file that we are trying to access. Okay, going back to we will edit our configuration file once again. Was called that one. So in this case, I have the root folder in the HTML. However, if I would like to add something else to this server, it could be a nice thing to actually have like a location crude in this case. So if I were to do /crude for a crude application, just an example, you can name this, of course, whatever you like, but I will go with crude, and have that being served from another folder different than the HTML folder. Then we could actually add another root here and say that, okay, the root for this is var vvv, like that. So then it will recognize that, okay, the root folder is the vvv folder, and inside of the vvv folder it will look for the crude folder as well. Exiting that one, reloading, oh, it's far away, reloading that one and adding a folder called crude, sudo make directory crude, go into the crude folder, index.html, hello again. I will not write a lot of HTML in this one. Save it. Hopefully, if we go to this /crude folder, we will get the hello again. So now the crude folder is in like one application in the www crude, and the root is in HTML instead. So now we can differentiate between the applications. That meaning that in this folder we could actually go back to how we worked with Node and NPN, and in this one I could just remove the index.html, and we can do a actually we can just create a app.mjx not writable, sudo nano app.mjx, add a simple web server running whoa, come on, like that, on port. In this case, if we go back to this one, we could try to replicate 50/50, for instance. We could use 50/50 for this one. The important thing when you choose a port in this case is that you are not allowed to choose ports between 1024, if I remember correctly. So it's often that you use like 50, 60, 70, 80. 80 is a classic example. I will do hello world from Node in this case. And I'm forgetting one thing actually. So yeah, so I saved that one. And now we have an app.mjx in this folder. But when we are trying to reach that crude folder, like that, no, is that the wrong machine? Crude, now it says forbidden because we don't have an index HTML file. So what this configuration that we have written is trying to do is to just serve static files from this crude folder. However, when we have a Node application, it's not static files that we want to serve. We create our own web server. So we want we don't want the web server in Nginx to be active. We just want Nginx to act as a proxy and not just fetching the files for us. So what we need to do then is to actually configure Nginx to be a proxy instead. And we do that by removing this root var directive and instead use the proxy pass directive. So we add a proxy pass. What URL do we want this to proxy to? Well, if we have a look at this one, we want Nginx to proxy to localhost over HTTP and port 5050. So proxy path to HTTP :// localhost 5050 and a semicolon to end that row. And we save that one. Now we need to reload our configuration file once again, and hopefully, it's always a little bit tricky, hopefully it will say, yeah, not found. And I thought I would actually should have gotten a bad gateway. Oh, that is not good. Well, let's see if we can get it to work. What have I done wrong? It's good that it's not working because we don't have any application running at the port 5050. However, it shouldn't say not found. It should actually say bad gateway. Well, I will try to just start this application, nano app.mjx. Not nano, sorry. The node, it's too close. We start that one. We get a warning module. Oh, we need to do a type module in the MJX extension. MJX. Oh, I'm sorry. Why did I name it that? Sudo rn app mjx to app.mjs, of course, and nothing else. Move app like that. Okay, node app.mjs instead. And it looks like it's actually running now. That's a good thing. However, not think that will work actually. I will need to just take a quick break. Ah, well, you have probably already guessed what was the problem. I forgot this line, right? So what this one is telling is try to find the files. However, when we are using a proxy, we are not trying to serve static files, so we need to remove this line as well. So by doing that, saving, reloading, and as you can see now we get a bad gateway, and that is indicating that we are actually correct in using Nginx as a proxy, since it gets the request. It's just not that it cannot proxy it forward because that port 5050 is not. It's a bad gateway, basically. It does not respond. So let's once again start up the node application, node app.mjs. It's up and running on port 5050, and since that one is up and running, it's responding, and it's now hidden behind this URL. So if I go to this one, we are serving static files from the HTML directory, and in this case we are using Nginx as a proxy to proxy it to the node. So we are basically doing this. Okay. When we are trying to proxy something like this, yeah, of course, we shouldn't run node. We have already discussed this, but if I run node like this, I need to cancel it, and now we will once again get a bad gateway. So we will later on have a look at how to start node in a proper way. However, looking at the configuration once again, if our CRUD, this application, if this one were to use WebSocket, we need to add some additional lines to tell the proxy to forward the upgrade traffic. Remember, when you're using WebSockets, you're upgrading from HTTP to WebSocket, and in order to be able to do this, we add those. I can actually copy them. Basically, making sure that we can proxy the upgraded traffic as come on it. HTTP version 1.1. I will get back to the HTTP version in a later recording. Proxy set header upgrade to the variable HTTP upgrade. Proxy set header connection upgrade. By doing this, we will allow this CRUD application to actually work together with WebSocket. So that can be a good thing to remember to add that to your file. Just test that it works. Looks like that. This one is still not working, of course, and this one is answering. If you want, for some reason, restart Nginx, I mean, when we are in development mode, doesn't really matter. It just takes a little bit extra time. But if you find yourself in a situation where stuff doesn't make sense, could be a good thing to just restart the Nginx as well, just to make sure that everything is like restarted and up to date. I think basically that is it. Well, one more thing actually, and that comes down to serving web manifest files if we are writing PVAs. So let's go to the configuration folder. And have a look at MIME types. So the file no MIME types. So this file is actually telling what MIME types will be used for different kind of files. So of course we have all the regular files that we like. PNG should be served with this MIME type, CSS files, HTML files, JavaScript files, JSON files, and whatever. But I don't think that the web manifest files are present in this one. And web manifest files, of course, you can serve them as application.json. That is totally fine. However, let's see where to add it. Well, I'll actually add it to the top so that we have it where all the other files are. And web manifest file should be served as application/manifest plus JSON. And the extension is that we will use is web manifest. As I said, of course, you can serve your web manifest files as .json files, and then they will get the extension or the MIME type application/JSON, and the browsers will accept that. However, if we want to do it according to standard, we should serve web manifest files as application/manifest plus JSON, and then we could add this one. Save that file and we reload the Nginx and everything is still working. However, now we have also added a MIME type for our PVAs to be served.